Ironwood Games. This is Andrew,
And this is Marcus.
and today we are taking a look at Timberborn.
Yeah,
What is Timberborn, you ask?
what is Timberborn? I'm asking.
It's an early access, and it's like a city builder. So if I hit this, that was the information about the early access. Um, so I wanted to. It looked interesting. It was an early access and on sale, and I bought it. And I said, let's do an Ironwood indie inspection with it.
Yeah,
So we're gonna take a look at it and see what it is. It looks very interesting. So I'll just tell you what I know from the kind of the details, the description in the thing. So the setup is that humans basically destroyed the Earth and are all gone. But um, they've left their effect on it. So there's not a lot of fertile ground. Like all of the natural oceans and rivers are like polluted, and I don't know what the time. There's been some amount of time, and beavers or some mutant beavers or something have like taken to sometimes walking on two legs and like doing tasks and like are the now dominant species and like most advanced species.
oh,
So you play as a beaver. So that's what we see here is these beaver factions. So you get to play as some beavers and make a little beaver society um, to reclaim the earth since the humans failed. So it has this. I don't know. I really like this like art and this little style. It's like this cute little beaver guy and
this is a lot more detailed than when you were telling me about the idea the other day. I thought it was going to be a lot more cartoony. This is pretty, like, fantasy, high detailed art.
yeah. Oh, I didn't want to spoil anything the other day. I was excited about it, and so far it's in. Like I said, it's early access. They have only two factions that they've released. Um, you can't play the second faction, the Iron Teeth, until you unlock them from playing the first one, the Folktales.
Uh huh.
So we're gonna start a new game with the Folktales. These are kind of, I think, the more traditional beavers, and we'll go into the recommended map here, and we'll kind of. I think my plan. Yeah, we'll do normal. Um, So normal, you want to challenge. Your settlement starts with moderate resources, and droughts are milder at the beginning but intensify over time. And then easy is kind of lots of things and not a lot of droughts, and then hard, not a lot of starting resources, and droughts are very severe. Um, so there's this. So we'll start here. It'll populate, and I'll tell you as we go here. But there's this kind of like uh, season cycle of like if you think of like the Nile or like ancient Egyptian civilization, where like Egyptologists tell us that they like lived based on the seasons, where like the Nile floods and you have then fertile land and you plant all your crops and you harvest them, and then you have like a drought season when the river kind of dries out. It's, so it's a very similar idea of that you have some length of time in which you can grow your crops and do things, and you store up food, and then you're trying to survive for through like the drought period. And so it kind of goes back and forth between those two pieces.
Interesting.
And yeah, and so on the kind of the regular normal mode, it's the drought season is kind of shorter, and but it gets longer over time, so it's a little bit easier to start off with. We're waiting for it to load here, and not sure why. There we go. Okay, so What would you like to call your settlement? What should we call this?
Oh, we had such a good name for a place, like... Oh, uh, Action Castle.
Action Castle. Yeah, I remember. Okay. So we have all these beavers here. And then down in the corner is kind of the tutorial here that it's going to tell us what to work on. So I won't read through all of it. I did the tutorial once just to get a feel for the game. Spoilers, but I'm not going to cheat. So we need logs. So they want us to make some lumberjacks. So everything's like down here, and like it's like a city builder, and they're organized here. So we grab some lumberjack flags to make a couple of lumberjack stations. And then it tells us that we need to actually build the building, and to build them they have to be connected to the district center, which is this building here. And so we'll make some paths to them, and then they'll be connected, and hopefully one of our beavers will build them. And then over here it kind of shows us that we have now 2 beavers employed as lumberjacks. If we hit next, and we see there's this little pop-up here. Okay, we did that. We need to mark the trees for cutting. So the lumberjacks don't just start cutting. You kind of have to manage your forest growth area and things. So say, okay, cut down those trees. And then the lumberjacks will start making wood. Okay, continue. All right, beavers need water to survive. So we got to build a water pump. So, and this is one of those things, it's not very obvious, at least in this early version of this, but as I said, the lore or the story is that the rivers and the natural water have been polluted. So the beavers refuse to drink the river water, so that's why you have to build this pump that then will purify the water. And we have to once again connect it to our district center. And so this is, I'm not really worried about doing like a layout or anything, but this is, as a city builder, this is definitely one of those where you can kind of figure out optimal layouts and do paths and things like that and figure it out. But I'm just kind of plopping this stuff in the order so that we can see how it works. So it shows this water pump that it needs 12 logs to build. So beavers are going from these logs that are cutting. You can see they're hauling the logs down here, and then they'll build it. And one thing is the speed on this. It does get a little bit slow at times, which is nice if you really want to slow it down. But in between, once you don't have anything to do, or in this tutorial, I'm just waiting for the next thing. So we've built the water pump. And then now, in addition to water, beavers also need food. So then it wants us to build a gatherer flag near some blueberry bushes. So there's blueberry bushes down here. And so we will make a little gatherer flag there, connect it back to our district center, and hopefully we'll get someone to start making some blueberries. There we go.
Interesting, you have to put a flag and then wait for one of them to spark interest.
Yeah, there's a couple of weird, like, interesting things like that, but it's, like I said, it's still in early access, and there's a features connection when you like exit that you can go to, and you can vote on features or submit new features or things and upvote common ones, because there's still a lot of things they're kind of working on or figuring out. So there's a lot of like quality of life things that just haven't been implemented, or maybe aren't programmed optimally. But you can respect, there's definitely a lot going on, and getting something like that to function can be a challenger, it's easy to overlook certain things. So you'll notice there's also a day-night cycle. So we're in now kind of the nighttime, and eventually the beavers will want to go to sleep, and since there's no homes right now, they'll sleep on the ground. The tutorial is telling us, though, we need a stable food source, so we want to build a farmhouse to plant and harvest crops.
So the berries are just temporary? Or they're finite?
I don't know if they're either temporary or finite. The one thing I do know is that the yield is very low.
Oh.
So they take like each berry bush, you can click on all the things and get information about them. So they produce 3 berries, and I think the beavers need to eat, I think 3 berries a day. Like different food has different like nourishment levels, and so I think it's like 3 berries a day to like stay satisfied with food. And so there's just not enough berry bushes over time, because then they also, if you look at like this plant here, it's just 1% of the berries growth. So every time they harvest, it'll make new berries, but it takes a certain amount of days. Where the farm is just more efficient at like the grow cycle for things, is better. So again, we're just gonna fast forward through the night, waiting for this farmhouse to be built. Again, you can see it needs 25 logs.
The little sprouts in the forest, are those like the trees like replenishing themselves?
So no. We'll find later we have to actually replant them. The stumps are the ones we've harvested. The little growing ones are ones that aren't fully grown yet. Eventually, so this is like 28% growth. When they do grow big, then they'll chop them down. They don't chop down the little sprouts, saplings, or whatever their appropriate term is. So our farmhouse is done. So yeah, it gets kind of deep, and if you like the city builders and the managers, like it's fun. But yeah, the forests do not auto repopulate, which is definitely, I've gone through a lot of the comments and feedbacks. There's a lot of tickets in that because different players have different opinions and views of how that should work or what is optimal for that. Which is why I like something like that where you have those upvote systems, because then you can vote on the like suggestion you like, and then hopefully the one with the most suggestions most players agree with will kind of win out, and then the developers will hopefully implement that. We need to plant crops. That's what it's asking us for. So it wants us to plant 70 carrot crops. So that's here. A little bit of this interface takes some getting used to, and I'm sure it'll move around and change things as it goes through early access. So we're gonna make, that's only 60. We need 70. So let's do that. There we go. And so now we've given the workers in the farm are going to start planting in the morning. We'll start planting carrot crops. So one thing that's not obvious in this, and again, there's definitely some explanation and things that are lacking and needed. If you notice this distinction between like the green land and the dry brittle land, this is, anything that's green is considered irrigated and watered, and that's based on the proximity to the actual river, the water source. And so the river only will water for so many tiles, and then it becomes barren and everything else is gross where you can't grow crops on things. So I think eventually you have to like invent some irrigation systems and things and do that. But then you can also move up the river. The river goes quite a long way here, all the way back to somewhere over here is the edge of the map and the start of the river. Yeah, over here. So now can I get back to my district? There we go. And then you'll see down in this box too, you'll notice like there's like notes about the things. So we have children, we have 3 children and 8 adults. One of our children grew up and then is old enough then to work and take jobs. The other thing that's interesting is they do die of old age. So they only have a certain lifespan. So like population management can be important. Let's see. While they're sleeping, again, nobody really works at night, so we can work on our tasks here. We want to build a log pile somewhere. Okay, R rotates because you have to connect everything to the paths like that. So we'll build a log pile or put in orders to build that. A small warehouse. And then 3 small water tanks. There we go. And I'm just gonna fast forward again until those things get built. So you can see they're planting the carrots. They built the log pile. They're building the warehouse, and then we'll get our storage tanks. So I slowed this down again because like the log piles only hold so many, only 20 logs, and that's where once there's 20 logs here, the lumberjacks will stop working. So that's where you need like a log pile so it can overflow here and then they can keep working. The same thing with the warehouse. The warehouse stores like everything else. So if your base buildings become full, they can overflow, which the same thing with the water pump. It only stores 15 units of water. And again, I think they need like 2 or 3 units of water a day, like per beaver, to like survive or to like satisfy their thirst. And then the carrots, again, they all show their growth progress. And I think carrots take 4 days to grow. It might be in the notes. I've seen some of it. Yeah, days to grow 4. And then like potatoes take 6 days to grow and wheat takes 10 days to grow. So then once you get the pattern and the cycles, you kind of know when to plant things and when to harvest, or to try at least.
What do the potatoes and wheat have? Do they have higher nutritional value of some kind, or what's the benefits of doing longer crops?
So I don't know. I haven't played it that much to figure all out of it. They don't eat. I will tell you, the beavers will eat the berries, and they'll eat the carrots. And the carrots, I think it's 1 carrot a day, but like 3 berries a day. The potatoes, they won't eat, but I think you can bake them, because then if you click on up here in the corner, this is their well-being. It tells you what needs they have. Like right now, they don't even have it's like a hierarchy of needs, right? Like they don't have their basic needs met because they still need a house to live in. But so you can see like you can make grilled potatoes and then bread. So I think there's like future buildings that you can build to make more of an industry. And those give them like a higher quality of life, because that's essentially what this score is. They call it well-being, but it's like and if it drops, that's not good. And I think to open the second clan, it was you need an average rating of 11, and right now we have a 3 because they have all of our beavers have 3 of their needs met. But this is again, that hunger and thirst that I'm talking about. If they don't have enough food to eat, then their basic needs start dropping.
You have a little notification in the bottom left saying construction lacks materials 1. Are we missing something?
No, it's just that there's not enough logs. So they're waiting on the lumberjacks to make more logs to build these things. It seems to be kind of, with most city builders, the management of like how many workers and how many resources to harvest to to build effectively. If you issue too many build orders, then nothing gets built because there aren't enough resources for all of them, and if they take resources to different buildings, they're all scattered around. So the other thing that we can do, and this is where sometimes if we look at our cut trees field, if we ran out of trees to cut, it could have been one of the problems, but we have enough trees, but we can always say more, like cut these trees down too. More tree. Like, don't forget about these trees. So now we have more trees, but once they're all cut, then we're like out of trees. All right, let's fast forward, get our other tanks going. So I don't know if you've seen this, but every once in a while you can see a beaver comes down to drink out of the storage tank, like when they're thirsty. They just come and help themselves to a drink. And the same thing, they'll come down to here, and if they're hungry, they'll go grab some berries. Like this guy might be going to get a berry. Oh, maybe not. And then this guy is working at the water tank, like redistributing water to the tanks. So I'm just going fast here, trying to, again, get that last water tank built. There's nothing really we can do until, there we go, the resources come through. Go to our next. And now it says homes increase beavers' well-being and allow your population to grow. So we only have a population of 11. Another kid has grown up. But that population won't expand if we don't have like houses for them to live in. So that's where we go and we build some houses. I want 6 houses, 2, 3. And again, if you care or like these things, and like normally I take a lot more time to try and plan stuff out, but right now we're just building stuff to see what happens.
And those houses share walls. That would drive me nuts.
The way I did it?
I'm just saying, like, living space, like having a place that like shares a wall, like, I feel like you could hear all of the other beaver business going on.
You're saying in reality?
Yeah.
I thought you were saying the way that I laid them out, that you wanted like space between them. But you were immersing yourself in beaver life already.
Yeah, I was like, okay, if I was a beaver, would I pay for that? Like, what's happening?
Would I really want? Yeah. Well, these are like the cheap duplexes, right? Because these are actually 3. 3 beavers to a little lodge or something. So one of the things at night when they quit working, you'll see they'll all come and like satisfy their needs and get drinks and stuff. So you can see they're drinking there, getting their water before they go home. And then they'll go sleep in their house. But since they don't have houses, they're all sleeping outside now. So again, we'll just speed this up. We'll wait for our lodges to be built. And not a lot happens in this. There's no, at least at this point, what I've seen, there's no like predators or other things. You're not really fighting or doing a war. You're just trying to build a civilization that will last.
That was my next thing I was going to ask is, like, with all the different icons at the bottom, unless if the anvil one, which makes sense, like, there doesn't seem to be, like, a army, militia...
No, so yeah, there's metal, and then science, and decoration, and monuments. I definitely know that's been... At least some people have put that in, like, the suggestion logs and, like, desire, things like that. For me, personally, I don't like those things. I like my city builders to just be about building cities. Otherwise I want it to be like an RTS and be about the fight, like building units. I don't like building like civilian populations and military populations. Just those games that have both elements don't interest me as much usually. So whether or not they're looking to add something or will add something like that, I'm hopeful they'll have an option to turn that off and keep it at least this way.
So what are we waiting for now?
Still more construction materials for these lodges. But you can see we only have 2 homeless beavers now. Since we have a population of 11, we've built houses, 3 lodges for 3 beavers, so 9 of them have houses. And now all of them have houses. And we have 3 unemployed beavers, so we could make more jobs for them. But again, I'm just kind of going through what the tutorial's directions tell us to get a sense of what to build, rather than trying to give any strategies or say this is what we do. Because that's really all I did before, was kind of play through the tutorial and see what it has. I don't want to spoil it for anyone if people are watching, are interested, or saying, want to try and get in the early access and give it a try. So then you can see also, now the carrots have grown and they're being harvested. So the farm beavers are harvesting these carrots, and they'll, up here at the top, you've got some tabs of how much different types of food you have. So we'll see we're getting a lot of carrots. Going through. Oh, my beavers are happier than ever. You've reached a new well-being high score, 5. So then if we go here, we see they're happy because we have carrots for everybody and we have shelter for everyone. So again, it says there, the Iron Teeth, that second faction, is unlocked when you get a well-being of 11. So we need to work on like some more of these pieces here.
Can you start planting and doing other stuff, or are we waiting for the tutorial to tell us to?
I can. Do you want to?
That sounds like you.
I was just waiting for the lodges were built. So, let's see. It says to build an inventor. Okay, so this is in science. Science points are used to unlock more advanced buildings. So, like these buildings with the red lock on them, you have to have science points for, and that requires a beaver to sit and think, I guess. So we'll build an inventor and do that. Let's put that back on. Fast forward. So what did you want to do? You want to plant some other crops?
Seems to be the next thing on the list to get your points up.
So you want to plant some potatoes. Plant some potatoes. And then some wheat. And plant some wheat. Okay. The one thing that is limiting is that the farmhouse only employs 2 beavers, and they can either only harvest or plant. So we've already, while they're harvesting, they won't plant. But perhaps we can cheat that by building another farmhouse. And then we'll have 4 farming beavers, since we still have 2 unemployed beavers. Let's see, we built the inventor, so next. Ooh, a water wheel. Okay, so luckily it flashes for us where we need it. And it wants us to build a water wheel. The other thing I should say is there's like a range from your other buildings and your paths. So when it's green, we can build it, and then when it turns yellow, it's too far away. And then red, is because it's on like uneven land, so it's not possible to build there. Where yellow is just it's out of range. So let's put our wheel right there. And we've got a farm. Now we've got 2 farmers working. Well, 4. 2 farmhouses. So hopefully they'll start finishing all up that and planting. And we'll get this water wheel built. You can see the inventors here working, making, I think science points are up here. This is the water we have, the amount of wood we have, and then other things. So you can kind of keep an eye on your population, how everything's going. You'll also notice we've had a couple of births since they've shacked up now. We now have a total population of 14 with 3 new children that will get born. So yeah, now everybody's planting some potatoes, some wheat, some carrots.
The children can work too, correct?
No, the children do not work.
Okay.
It takes a couple of days, I think, for them to grow into adults. And then I think they drink and eat less. So keeping an eye on your children is good, because that kind of gives you an idea of, like, right now we don't have unemployed beavers, but in a couple of days we're going to have 3 new beavers that need jobs, and all of our jobs are kind of full. So then we'll either need to build more buildings for them to work at, or be satisfied that we have some unemployed beavers. Okay, so it looks like we built the water wheel. It is spinning in the water. And now, to make use of the water wheel, we're going to produce planks. So we need a lumber mill, which is this one here. And again, let's see. So we'll assign a lumber mill, build a path to the lumber mill. And it'll take 15 logs, which we'll get to in the morning. Oh, and you can see that beeping is telling us that we've got a drought coming now in 2.9 days. So we have 2.9 days to fill up on water and food and try and survive the drought. That's the plan. The other thing it wants us to do is, while we're building that, is it wants us to take power from the water wheel to the mill. So you have to build these little power shafts. And then that should connect. There we go. So now it has power, and it shows you how much power it's getting. And then this beaver that works here is turning logs into planks, which we will use for building the forester. The forester, unfortunately, is a locked building, so we're going to have to spend science points to unlock it, and then we can build a forester. The forester then takes planks and logs to build, and so there's definitely a lot of like initial base layer to do. But I think the game gets really interesting when you actually hit these droughts, and you really start to see the uniqueness of it, and like what I think is the appeal. Since we haven't been building as much, you can see in our log warehouse or storage area, we have like 15 logs stored up. And the forester has been built, and he's complaining, saying he has nothing to do. So we need the next one will tell us. We need to then tell him to repopulate like the forest. So go here at plant trees, and we want him to plant pine trees. So then we select an area and say, okay, so grow plants or trees back in that area. And as we do that, he's going to start replanting trees for them to cut down. So that's how you kind of get that cycle for wood. The nice thing is the water wheel is powered by the river that flows. You can kind of see there's the flow here. So the power is free. It doesn't require a worker. However, when the river dries up, that's not going to work anymore. And the other thing I've noticed from the feedback and things is the river, it flows like at different rates, kind of dynamically. And I don't think, based on the feedback, I was looking at some of those suggestions, I think it's not really a clear way other than looking at the amount of power that's being produced. When it slows down, you'll notice like it's only produces 30 power, versus when it's like at full speed, it'll produce 60. And things, so I know that's one thing people have said, like it'd be nice to be able to have a little bit more information about the river flow. I'm going to slow down back into normal mode because our drought's about to happen. And I want you to kind of see what happens as we get a drought. We also planted our pine trees. And just in time, your settlement is now self-sufficient as long as the water keeps flowing. Consider building a dam or placing more water tanks to help your beavers survive the droughts. The tutorial showed you the basics, but there is much more you can discover on your own. Good luck. So, yeah, that's kind of the tutorial. That's the basic parts. And we're about to hit the drought. So, we'll let that happen, but we'll probably end pretty quick here. Thoughts, Marcus? What are you?
I know you haven't played this, but like, how do you know you're done? Or is there like an end game of some kind, or is that just something where just like kind of a session is you spend a little bit of time just kind of taking to try to refine the efficiency of your settlement, or is there like a end game goal of some kind?
So far there's not, and I know that's been some of the feedback too, is kind of more in-game content or things to do towards the end. Or like a campaign mode. For now, the only thing that I know is that unlocking the next faction is kind of the only goal we have. So other than, like making your city more efficient or coming back and like building or working towards saying like, okay, next thing I'm going to do is do that. The thing I like about the drought cycles though, is it's kind of, you could make your own little goals like, okay, before the next drought, I'm going to start getting the potatoes going and kind of get that back up, and then because like before this first drought, the tutorial kind of helps us get water, food, and wood going. And so then you can kind of say, okay, what else do my beavers want to move up to the next level? So we've started the drought. The drought's forecasted to last for 2 days. And so you'll notice, if you can kind of see this water in the river, the flow has really slowed down. If we look at the water wheel, it's down to like 37, 38 when it was 60 the day before, and you can see that keeps dropping in our drought season. And then the pump, the same thing is kind of pumping. This measure here for lots of buildings tells you kind of the efficiency. No, that's not the efficiency. That's the percentage of producing. So it takes, this is the efficiency. This building every third of an hour basically makes one water unit, or it makes 3 waters per hour. Kind of right now. And then we can see down here the river is now drying up. So that source water, as a result of the drought, is going, and then trailing that, you'll notice the fertility of the land dries up, and all of your plants kind of dry up because they're not on fertilized land anymore, or fertile ground that's green. So this is where you really get to see, oh, this drought is some serious business. And then here is a different elevation, so it's kind of like a little lake, and that's the reason it hasn't all evaporated yet. Is the river running off into that lake? It's going to take a little bit longer. But the other thing you'll notice, like these plants, these carrots are fully grown, so they can keep harvesting them. But you'll notice out here it's drying out, and in 1.8 days, the carrots are going to die. So if we don't harvest them before 1.8 days, we lose that crop.
Did you take all the people who were doing like the harvesting of like the wood and planting all the wood and move them over to work on the carrots?
So unfortunately, no, because each farmhouse only has 2 workers. So you'd have to build more farmhouses.
No.
And that's, one of the things, like, you can manage, the beavers to a little bit, but then you can't get too micromanaging, which is fine because I really don't like getting too micromanaging. But then it is unfortunate, like these guys here have chopped down all the wood, so they're just like sitting down on the job because they've got nothing else to cut right now. And so things like that, where it is, which again are in those feedback things where people are like, well, make a way that they can do other jobs less efficiently or something, because when they're just sitting around and you've got all these crops that are dying, it does feel kind of bad. But yeah, so the water wheel's not going, the pump's not pumping any water anymore. This amount of water, we have 87 water for 15 total beavers when we have a day and a half more of drought. So I'm going to speed up again just to kind of get through the drought and see, now that you've seen the effect of the drying up land. If you keep an eye on those crops, see if they all get harvested, and we'll keep an eye on the water. Especially at night, they tend to drink a lot before they go to bed, and you'll see that water's really dropping down in what we have. And so the trick to surviving the drought is having enough food and water that your beavers don't all die. So I think we'll see if we can survive this drought season, and then we'll call that a day. So I don't know, do you do city builders a lot, Marcus? Is this a type of game you like, or?
I've dabbled in them in the past. I was a huge Rise of Nations fan way back in the day, which had a military component. And I would argue, like, if anything, that was the focus. I mean, there was definitely a focus on resource, but it was more of like you kind of have your own city, and it was more about upgrading your militia to conquer other people and worlds and stuff like that. But
right.
The resource building of this, I have City Skylines, which is kind of the pinnacle. It's kind of the game that's overtaken SimCity in a way, which I didn't grow up on. And that has just gotten so complicated that as you can really fine-tune power to like a very specific, like that's a little too different. So I like this, where it's fairly dumbed down, where it's just like, okay, like, you have a couple different crops, a couple different power, and then how do you optimize? I mean, it's definitely something, with all due respect to the devs, if it was on sale, I probably would pick it up, just to kind of dabble as a nice kind of wind down kind of game from maybe a really stressful day. I don't need something actiony, I just need something to help me feel productive.
Yeah, no, that's why I like them, is they're just something that I can kind of mindlessly do, and you don't have the stress of like other things. So I just wanted to point out the drought ended, and you'll notice all these crops died. So our wheat and potatoes died before they fully reached maturity to harvest, as well as all these other carrots are dying, so they're gonna have to replant all the crops. And that's, again, what's interesting is kind of managing how big can your farm be so that you can harvest all your crops before the drought comes? And so things like that to me appeal in that same way. Once you kind of have things running and they're efficient, it's fun, but then also kind of figuring out, okay, how do I expand or kind of grow or get to that next level? So there's a little bit of challenge inherent in it, but it's not like stressful or constantly being on the lookout for invading armies or anything of that nature. I will also say I've never played the City Skylines because of the fact that it seems to have gotten so big that it's complicated, and that intimidates me, and I don't want the anxiety of like having to deal with that many things. I agree, I like a certain level of it. Because I did grow up on SimCity, so but those kinds of games started to get too complex and too many things where you're managing like power layers and sewer layers, and it's cool, but I'm like, I don't really want to be a city planner, or I just do that for my job. Like,
Yeah, you want to defend your little town against, a tornado or Godzilla or aliens.
yeah, like I just want a layer of like abstraction to it to feel like I'm doing it, but I don't need all the details of doing it. So we won't get into all my things. It's why I hate like games that have like durability for weapons and things. It's just something I don't like, but it's not what I want in my gaming experience. But anyways, we'll end it there. The other thing you'll notice since we're ending it is the drought has ended. Just like it took a while for that river to dry up, it also takes a while for the river to kind of come back after the drought. So you can see it's slowly starting to do that. So it's not instantaneous, and I do like that. It gives you a little bit of that. When the drought comes, kind of like, oh, can we do it before everything dries up? And then after the drought, you're kind of anticipating and waiting, like, oh, how much longer? How much longer? So I've enjoyed it so far. Like I said, I got it on sale in early access. There's still seem to have a lot of plans and things to do with it. So if you enjoy this kind of game or this looked interesting, keep an eye on it. I'm sure they'll have some more sales at some point, or just get the full thing and support the devs and have some fun with early access.
And looking at the Steam page, there seems to be very positive feedback, and it sounds like the devs are really keeping in contact with the community and trying to get your feedback and give them what they want. So a lot of early access games, it's easy for them to kind of die in the water, especially when they've made a decent amount of money before they have full things realized. But this one seems to be pretty active and supportive. So please go support them and check it out.
Yeah, no, that's the impression I've got. They still have that energy and excitement about it. So yeah, now's the time to get in and keep engaging with them to keep it going through. All right, until next time, everyone. Like, comment, subscribe.
Do the click in the comments. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.